It had been nearly 5 months since YN and Jungkook had been married. What had started as an arranged marriage, orchestrated by his father, had slowly grown into something deeper, or so YN thought. Their quiet moments together, the way Jungkook looked at her with a softness in his eyes, the way they made love through the night, it felt real. It felt like they were slowly falling in love. This morning was no different, at least not at first. The early light streamed through the curtains, casting a warm glow across their shared bedroom. YN stirred, her body sore but pleasantly so, after a passionate night spent in Jungkook's arms. She smiled softly as she felt him shift beside her, his muscular arm draped protectively over her waist. He groaned softly, waking up as well. "Morning, Mrs. Jaeon," Jungkook mumbled, his voice husky from sleep, a playful smile tugging at his lips. YN chuckled, her fingers brushing his hair away from his face. "Good morning, Mr. Jaeon." Jungkook's eyes were still half closed, but he leaned in, placing a soft kiss on her forehead. "You slept well, I assume. I didn't overdo it last night, did I?" His voice had a teasing edge, making YN blush. "Jungkook," she exclaimed, lightly hitting his chest as she giggled. "You're insufferable," he laughed, the sound low and rich, and pulled her closer. "Just checking, babe, I wouldn't want my wife to be too tired for our morning coffee routine." YN smiled at the mention of their little ritual. They had grown accustomed to mornings spent sipping coffee together in the kitchen, sharing moments of peace before the day began. It had become something she looked forward to, a glimpse into what their life could be. But today would be different. As YN slipped out of bed, she was about to head to the kitchen when she heard faint voices coming from down the hall. She froze. Jungkook's father, Mr. Jaeon, had been staying with them for a few days, but it was strange to hear him speaking this early in the morning. The tone of his voice, low, commanding, sent a shiver down her spine. Curiosity got the best of her, and YN quietly walked toward the door, leaving it open just enough to hear what was being said. "You have to follow through, Jungkook, Mr. Jaeon's voice was stern. "The family's legacy depends on this." YN's heart raced as she pressed herself against the door frame, listening closely. What were they talking about? "I know, father, I know," Jungkook replied, his voice laced with tension. "You can't afford to hesitate anymore. YN is your wife for one reason. You need to get her pregnant, and soon." YN felt like her blood turned to ice. "What? Once the child is born, Mr. Jaeon continued, you'll do what we planned. The divorce can be quiet. You'll marry Hyejin afterward." Her breath caught in her throat as Mr. Jaeon's words sank in. "Divorce? Hyejin, his ex-fiancé? You can't keep dragging this out, Mr. Jaeon pressed. "We didn't arrange this marriage out of sentiment, Jungkook. You need an heir, and YN can give that to you. Hyejin can't. She's infertile, and you know the family won't accept a childless marriage. Once YN has the baby, you need to leave her as 23 gave deal with Hyejin's father," Mr. Jaeon said. YN's heart shattered into a million pieces. She stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth to muffle the sob that threatened to escape. Jungkook, he had only married her for a child. Their nights together, the way he touched her, looked at her, kissed her, it had all been for this. She was nothing more than a tool, a pawn in his family's game. She turned and fled down the hall, her mind spinning, tears streaming down her face. She felt sick to her stomach. The man she thought she was falling for, the man she thought she could trust, had been deceiving her all along. By the time Jungkook returned from his conversation, YN was sitting at the dining table, her back to the doorway. Her hands were trembling, and she couldn't stop the tears that kept falling. "YN," Jungkook's voice called from behind her. She could hear the soft smile in his tone, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside her. "You're up already? I thought I'd find you still in bed." "Don't," YN cut him off, her voice sharp and broken. Jungkook froze in the doorway, his smile fading. "YN, what's wrong?" His voice was soft, concerned, but YN couldn't stand to hear it. Not now, not after what she had just heard. She stood up slowly, turning to face him, her eyes red from crying, her chest heaving with the effort to hold herself together. "I heard everything," she whispered, her voice trembling with anger and betrayal. Jungkook's eyes widened, his face paling. What are you talking about?" YN's body shook with fury. "I heard you and your father talking. About how you only married me for a child. About how, once I get pregnant, you'll divorce me and marry someone else." She spat the words out, each one like a knife slicing through her heart. Jungkook's mouth opened, but no words came out. He took a step toward her, his hands raised in surrender. It's not. Don't you dare, she screamed, her voice raw with emotion. Don't you dare try to explain this away. Please, just let me. No, she cut him off, her voice breaking as tears poured down her cheeks. Was this your plan all along? You were just going to use me to have your baby and then leave me? Throw me away like I'm nothing? Jungkook's face twisted in pain. No, it wasn't like that. Then what was it? She demanded, her voice rising. Tell me, Jungkook, tell me what the hell I am to you. Am I just some vessel for your family's legacy? No, Jungkook whispered, his voice thick with guilt. It wasn't supposed to be this way. YN let out a bitter laugh, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Wasn't it supposed to be this way? How, Jungkook, how else was it supposed to be? You married me because your father told you to. You married me because I'm fertile. The word felt disgusting in her mouth, like she was nothing more than a breeding tool. Jungkook flinched at the harshness in her tone, his hands balling into fists at his sides. It's more complicated than that. Complicated, YN screamed, her voice hoarse. How is this complicated? You married me for a child, and once I give you that, you'll leave me. What part of that is complicated, Jungkook? Jungkook's chest rose and fell with rapid breaths as he struggled to find the words. I didn't want to hurt you. YN shook her head, her heart breaking all over again. But you did. You've been hurting me every day. You let me fall in love with you. You let me believe this was real, that you cared about me, and all the while you were planning to leave. I didn't plan this, Jungkook said quietly, his voice thick with regret. My father, he forced me. I didn't have a choice. YN stared at him, her eyes blazing with fury. You always had a choice, Jungkook. You could have told me the truth. You could have said no. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, looking pained. I couldn't. He would have disowned me and he would have cut me off from everything. So you chose money and your family's legacy over me? YN asked, her voice barely above a whisper now. The weight of his betrayal crushed her, making it hard to breathe. Jungkook's eyes pleaded with her. It wasn't about money, it was about responsibility. I never wanted to drag you into this. But you did, YN said softly, her voice breaking. And now I don't even know who you are. Silence fell between them, heavy and suffocating. YN's heart ached in her chest as she looked at Jungkook, the man she had thought she was falling in love with, now a stranger before her. Jungkook took a step forward, his hand reaching out to her. YN, please. I don't love Hyejin, I never did. This marriage was never about her. Then what was it about? She asked, her voice trembling. What was it about, Jungkook? I don't know anymore, he whispered, his voice cracking. But I know I don't want to lose you. YN's lips quivered as fresh tears streamed down her face. You already have. With that, she turned and tried to walk away. YN's heart was pounding, her mind racing as she turned to leave the room, the weight of what she had overheard threatening to crush her. She felt dizzy, lost, and betrayed. But before she could take another step, a strong hand grabbed her wrist, pulling her back with such force that she stumbled slightly. Jungkook's grip was firm, unyielding, and he swiftly pinned her against the wall, his body pressed against hers, eyes burning with desperation. Jungkook, let me go. She cried, her voice thick with emotion. She struggled in his grasp, but he wasn't letting her slip away. YN, stop. His voice broke, the command in his words undercut by the panic she could see in his eyes. You have to listen to me. Please. But YN shook her head violently, her tears blurring her vision. I don't want to hear anything. I heard enough. You, her voice cracked, the words like shards of glass in her throat. You used me, you lied to me. No, Jungkook's voice was raw, desperate. He gripped her shoulders tightly, his eyes wild with fear. I didn't lie to you. I swear, I didn't marry you to use you. I never wanted this, YN. I was forced into this. YN looked away, her chest heaving with the pain that engulfed her. You expect me to believe that? After everything I just heard. You planned this, Jungkook. You planned to use me, to make me pregnant, and then, leave me. The betrayal in her voice cut through him like a knife, and Jungkook's breath hitched. Please, just listen to me, he whispered, his voice breaking as he held her face gently, his thumbs wiping away the tears that streamed down her cheeks. I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you. YN's eyes were filled with fury and heartache. Then why, Jungkook, why would you do this? He closed his eyes for a moment, his hands trembling as he held her face. His voice dropped to a whisper, raw and filled with guilt. Because I had no choice. My father, he threatened me. YN blinked, confused, her anger momentarily faltering. Your father this, your father that, can you just say it clearly? She asked with anger in her voice. Jungkook nodded, the torment in his eyes clear as he continued, his voice barely audible. He threatened my mom. He said if I didn't go through with this, if I didn't marry you and follow his plan, he'd destroy her. He'd take everything from her. Disown her, leave her with nothing. She's already been through so much because of him, I couldn't let him do it again. I couldn't let him ruin her life even more. YN's heart clenched as she listened, her mind trying to process the weight of what he was saying. So you married me, because of that? Her voice was small, fragile. At first, yes, Jungkook admitted, his voice hoarse with regret. At first, it was all about protecting my mom. I didn't have any other option. His hands dropped from her face to her waist, holding her tightly as though afraid she would slip away. But then, everything changed. YN swallowed hard, her head shaking slightly in disbelief. Changed? How? I fell in love with you, YN, Jungkook confessed, his voice thick with emotion. I didn't expect it, I didn't plan for it. But it happened. Somewhere along the way, you became everything to me. Her breath caught in her throat, her body trembling against him as she tried to hold back the flood of emotions. Jungkook, I know what I did was wrong, he continued quickly, his words tumbling out in a rush as if he feared she'd walk away before he could explain. I should have told you the truth from the start. I should have trusted you. But I was scared, YN. Scared you wouldn't believe me. Scared you'd hate me. Scared you'd leave. The anguish in his voice tore at her, and for a moment, YN found herself softening. But the pain was still there, lingering like a wound that hadn't healed. But I heard everything, she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. Your father said you should make me pregnant and then leave me. Was that the plan all along? Jungkook's eyes widened in horror, his head shaking vehemently. No, never, YN. I would never do that to you. I would never use you like that. Even if I hadn't fallen in love with you, I would have never followed his plan. I swear on everything I have, I would have never used you. YN's hands trembled as she wiped at her tears, her heart in pieces. How can I believe that, Jungkook? How can I believe anything after what I heard? Jungkook's grip on her tightened, his eyes pleading with her. Because it's the truth, he said quietly, his voice filled with sincerity. I swear to you, YN. I've been trying to figure out how to get us out of this. I was going to tell you everything. I've been planning to get my mom somewhere safe, far away from my father. And then I was going to run away with you. Far away, somewhere he can't ever find us. YN blinked, surprised. Run away, Jungkook nodded, his jaw set with determination. Yes, I've been setting things up for weeks. I found a place where we can be safe. Just you, me, and my mom. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about the family business, or my father's legacy. All I care about is you. Her heart twisted painfully in her chest, torn between the love she still felt for him and the overwhelming betrayal. Then why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you let me in? I was scared, Jungkook admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I was scared of losing you. Scared you'd think I was just like him. But I'm not, YN. I'm not like my father. I love you. I've always loved you. YN stared at him, her breath coming in shallow gasps as she tried to make sense of everything. Her eyes filled with fresh tears, and she bit her lip to keep from sobbing. Jungkook's hands moved to cradle her face again, his thumbs gently brushing away her tears. Please, YN. Please believe me. I'll do whatever it takes to prove it to you. I'll show you that I'm not like him. I'll protect you, no matter what. Her heart ached as she looked into his eyes, the sincerity and fear written all over his face. Jungkook, I'll fix this, he whispered, his forehead resting against hers. I'll keep you safe, I swear. I didn't marry you for a child. I married you because I had no choice at first, but now, you're my choice. You're everything to me. YN's chest tightened, her emotions warring inside her. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust him again, but the pain of what she had overheard still lingered, clawing at her insides. Her voice was barely audible when she finally spoke. Then prove it. Prove that you love me. Jungkook's eyes filled with resolve, and he nodded. I will. I'll prove it every day. I'll take my mom somewhere safe, and we'll disappear. You and me, we'll be free of him. I'll never let him hurt you again. The silence between them stretched, thick and heavy with everything unsaid. YN's tears slowly dried as she felt the truth in his words, the love that radiated from him. Maybe he had made mistakes, but in this moment, she could see the man she had fallen in love with. Jungkook leaned in, his lips brushing hers softly now, a stark contrast to the roughness from earlier. I love you, YN. More than anything in this world. As his words hung in the air, YN exhaled slowly, her heart still aching but softening. She wasn't ready to forgive him fully, not yet, but the raw emotion in his voice told her that maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. In the days that followed their heated confrontation, YN struggled to reconcile her feelings. The truth of Jungkook's circumstances weighed heavily on her heart, mingling with the remnants of betrayal and pain. She was still hurt by what she had overheard, but deep down, she felt a flicker of hope. Jungkook had professed his love, and despite everything, she couldn't deny the connection they shared. Meanwhile, Jungkook was determined to prove himself. He began implementing his plan to keep YN and his mother safe from his father's wrath. Every morning, he would wake up early, leaving little notes around their home that reminded YN of his love and commitment. They were filled with sweet words and promises, like, I'll always protect you, and, you're my everything. Each note felt like a lifeline, reigniting the warmth between them. One evening, after another long day of planning, Jungkook approached YN with a nervous energy. He had arranged for a getaway, a brief escape to a serene cabin by a lake, away from the chaos of their lives. He hoped this would help them reconnect and rebuild their trust. YN, he said softly, taking her hands in his thumb gently brushing over her knuckles. I have something for you. I want to show you how much you mean to me. She raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued but a hint of apprehension is still present. What is it? He smiled, a genuine warmth flooding his features. I know things have been rough between us, but I want to make it right. I've planned a weekend away, just you and me. No distractions, no worries. I want us to focus on each other. YN's heart swelled at the thought, but hesitation lingered. What if your father finds us? I won't let him, Jungkook replied fiercely, determination etching his features. I've made arrangements to ensure my mom is safe, and I'll keep us safe too. I want you to trust me. Just this once. Can we try to be happy again? After a moment's hesitation, YN nodded, feeling a rush of excitement mixed with trepidation. Okay, let's do it. The following weekend, they drove to the cabin, surrounded by lush trees and the soothing sounds of nature. As they settled in, YN felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. The place was cozy, filled with soft blankets and the inviting scent of cedar. Jungkook had even prepared a small dinner with candles, transforming the simple cabin into a romantic retreat. Over dinner, they shared laughter and stories, gradually letting down their guards. Jungkook recounted childhood memories, the goofy moments that made YN giggle uncontrollably, while she shared her dreams and aspirations, feeling safe in his presence. Later, as the sun set and the stars began to twinkle overhead, they walked by the lake, hand in hand. Jungkook paused, turning to face YN, his expression serious yet tender. YN, I know I messed up. I didn't handle things the way I should have, and I'm truly sorry for the hurt I caused. But I need you to know that I love you with everything I am. You're the one I want to build a life with, not just a child. I want a future filled with happiness, and I want that future to be with you. Tears welled in YN's eyes as she absorbed his words, the sincerity in his voice washing over her like a warm wave. I want that too, Jungkook. I was so scared. He stepped closer, his hand cradling her face gently. I know, but I promise, I will never let anyone come between us again. We'll fight this together. Just give me a chance to show you how much I love you. YN took a deep breath, feeling her heart open to him once more. Okay, I want to trust you. I want to try. With that, Jungkook leaned in, capturing her lips in a soft, sweet kiss that ignited the warmth between them. In that moment, all the hurt began to fade, replaced by the promise of a new beginning. As the night deepened, they sat by the lakeside, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the stars twinkle above them. Jungkook told her about his plans to move away, to build a life where they could be free of his father's influence. He spoke of dreams, a home filled with laughter, love, and perhaps children one day, but only if that was what YN wanted. I just want to make you happy, he said, sincerity shining in his eyes. You already make me happy, Jungkook, she replied, her heart swelling with hope. I just need to feel secure. We need to work on this together. Jungkook nodded, pulling her closer as he promised, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm not letting you go. Not now, not ever. Jungkook reached over, intertwining his fingers with hers. No matter what happens next, we'll face it together, okay? Just you and me against the world. YN smiled, warmth spreading through her as she squeezed his hand. Just you and me against the world. And with that promise, they began to rebuild their lives together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, their love stronger than ever.